sometimes Chinese would call that sticky hands. When we move, we don't want to look at the hands. We don't want to grab the hands. We don't want to use the force. But we want to move, not just stiff like a tree, but we want to move, flow. But the whole point of this exercise, doesn't matter if you're inside or outside, stick to your opponent. Don't lose contact. We done it last year with knives, and you realize how it's important with knife training. So the idea of this exercise is to flow, but without losing control with your partner. Because the minute there is no contact, in the dark room, he might be pulling a knife on you, he might be hitting you. So you want to flow and know exactly where he is. So don't rely on your eyes, just flow, and your job is to find a way to come to him and introduce your hand to his face. Okay? So as you flow, be aware of space, be aware of the movement and legs and balance, of course, and flow without losing each other's control. So let's do this for a couple of minutes just to get into the feeling of flowing. So get a partner, couple of minutes, and then we'll move into the technique. Front, flow in, flow out, experiment. And don't forget to walk, because if you can't fight as a tree, you have to move and see what's happening. Alright, so as you move it, advantages and it seems like a simple little exercise, fun little game, but it has advantages and disadvantages. When I'm outside, I have a little better control of my opponent, because see what, if I drop my elbow and I bend my wrist, I'm more in control here. When I'm inside, I have a little bit less control, but much faster reach to his face. Okay? So it has pluses and minuses. So sometimes maybe one hand could be inside, one is outside, trying to trick him. And then so he doesn't know what to expect, because you could be inside and outside at the same time. But as the person gets better and better at this exercise, they start realizing there are tricks and shortcuts. So the trick is not just relying on your hand, but look what happened if I introduce my little elbow movement and I'm inside. So I passed him without trying to use the strength or speed, just by stepping. See how nicely I trapped him without doing anything. So as I'm moving, and I'm running inside and trap his hand at the same time. Some new tools, experiment with it. Remember, still soft hands, so try not to use too much force. So of course, Yuka has many levels. In Tai Chi Chuan, they use this level when they move around. Okay? But in stick to your opponent, because it teaches us to stick to your opponent, to make you uncomfortable when you get too close. Any jiu-jitsu will have to get close, because when we get close, we feel comfortable, that's our territory. There is less opportunity for our opponent to strike us. Also, you learn when you fight using weapons that this is a foundation. If you learn to stick to your opponent, and if he has a knife, you're much better off being here than standing here and he has a knife. Because if you have nowhere to run and you kind of stuck here and he has a knife, remember last year how easy to get cut and killed? So it's kind of crazy, but you want to get closer to him if he has a knife and learn to stick with him and flow. Yes, you're going to get cut and killed, but you have a chance to survive. All right, so sticky hands is very important. Loosening you up, loosening the mind, because it's not just a technique. You have to prepare the mind. Mind is an integral and important part of martial arts training. It's not just strength or flexibility or the technique. The more fluid the mind, the less thought process, the quicker is the reaction time. So when we're training in the martial arts, we also training our mind, not just our body. So this exercise helps us to clear the mind and get in a state of no thinking when you just react and flow with the change. So very important exercise. When I teach my classes in Los Angeles, I use this technique almost daily after we do our hard warm-up and falls and rolls and throwing each other, then just to calm down the mind and flow and just see how the body reacts. Alright, so once we loosen up, let's do some techniques with the fluidity. So let's start with a simple cross-hand grab. Okay? If we understand the leverage and balance when we move in here, and we understand how the body is moving. If we just continue flowing, things will be interesting. If I continue flow and I know how the body is going, and I know how to control my opponent with pain, and if I don't stop and keep going, if I keep pushing, of course, he's gonna fall on the ground. So that will be the end of my fluidity. So it's very important in these techniques, know where to stop, where to control the balance there is very tricky. You don't want to overgo too fast or too strong, so you don't want to lose your opponent. So you want to make it continuous flowing. So as I'm here, I'm constantly in control, flowing in here, constantly can work with my opponent. And if I see he's getting too much grounded, I will help him to stand up. You know? But my help has to do with pain, manipulating him through pain. If he has no pain, why can't you work with him, you know? He would say, you guys, you're crazy, I'm not gonna work with you, I'm gonna throw you or hit you. So as you work with your opponent, control him through pain, but dictating so his body flows. So we're gonna do simple, start with the simple, when we step, flow, and stop here for a moment. We don't wanna take it too much. So the first 3 movements is 1, 2 is control. But don't make it robotic, make it fluid. So it's slow, okay? And remember, you don't want to be too much in here because he will escape. There is not enough pain, he can roll. So you want to have a little control. Just feel, okay? And don't be too much focused on your opponent as well. Be aware of the space and things, what's happening around you. So try to relax, cross hand step, and you're here, feel. Let's do this first step, and then as we train during today, we're gonna add more complex and interesting moves. But we want to start with the simple things first. So let's do this with your partner. Cross and drop. 2, 3 movements in one. So what was happening in this movement? With the cross hand drop, I step. What happened with my other hand? It's automatically here because I'm going to use it. Also, it's a protection because if my hand is not here, he will hit me. Okay? So as I'm moving in here, I'm already planning for the next move and I'm flowing. Okay? If I push him too down, I'm going to lose him and he's going to fall. The fight will be over, but we want to flow. So the next step is to bring him up with pain and control. So as I'm moving, it's here. My fingers naturally slip in here and bend in here, okay? It's not too much pain, but it's just enough to get him moving. Because if he wants to resist, if we're fighting in straight, he's definitely not gonna stop here. So this is just a transition. Transition to move somewhere else. So what are we doing now? We're putting 3, 4 movements together. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm slipping here. My body is a foundation. Because in jiu-jitsu, you need a foundation. If you have no foundation and you're doing technique, you'll just slip out of it. So when I'm here, now my body, my chest is the foundation for his elbow, and I'm moving him around. And what I just did, I created pain, he's here, so he mind shifted here. My hand broke his balance, so I come up in here. So I just gently moving this game. So I just did 3, 4 techniques in one. 1, 2, 3, slip, here, come back, and go here. But you want to make it nice and slow. So you cannot stiffen up your legs, everything has to move. And if you slip and lose something, it's okay. Nobody is perfect, you know. So as you move and something happens, if you feel you're losing him, let it go. Don't try to fight. Then you're missing the whole point of fluidity. Because if your hand slips, it's okay. So I'm here. Something happened. As I'm moving, my hand kind of got slipped in here. Then as I'm controlling here, I might shift my weight and balance in here. So you just redirect. Yes, there is a set movement and techniques, but this is very also an important creative part of jiu-jitsu. That's why it's so beautiful when you practice jiu-jitsu. If you've done karate before, you know it's year after year after year you do the same thing, and you have to hold the hand a certain way, the finger a certain way, and the body a certain way. In jiu-jitsu, it's constantly changing and flowing. So we, like water, adapt to a change. So if we do something, it happens. Your body moves, I move, my balance moves, I adapt and change to something else. So as you flow with this technique, you're here, I'm here, and I move him a little bit, open him up, ready for the next movement. So let's do this 3-4 movements together. So again, we're not here to learn something new, because as you're training in martial arts and jiu-jitsu, you learn all those moves. We're here to put them together and see how they flow. Okay? See the continuation, what happens. And my job is to show you, we have these notes, see if we can create a new melody. Okay? So what we were doing, we were moving in here, continuous movement, and we open up our uke. Okay? You have this nice control. With the beauty of this, you can walk him back, or you can walk him forward. If you decide to switch, you can come up here, this control, okay? It never ends. If I'm here, I can push him to the ground if I need to, or I need to switch him. So if I grab anything to open up or hold him here, I can switch back, control him here, come back maybe to this hand. It depends how he holds his hands, okay? Because if he holds his hands differently, I have to improvise and do something else. So when I'm here, coming up, open, switch. And now we have a little chop happening in here. So let's add the chop. So here, come back, open, shift, go behind. Okay? Let's do this next step. And make it fluid, don't step it out. Yes, yes.